So hello, everybody, and welcome back to the fourth session of the Knowledge Exchange program on sustainable buildings and positive energy districts. And this is the fourth session and is going to be focused on the financing of positive energy districts and buildings. And today we will learn a bit what are the key strategies for smart and sustainable financing on this specific sector, but also how can the local and regional energy markets be mobilized by you. And we will hear from an opening of this the session from my colleague Christoph Gollner from the DUT partnership, and then we will go in Latin America and Caribbean with Andreas Jäger, who is the Caribbean Senior Program Development and Portfolio Management Officer at the Global Green Growth Institute, GGGI. Sorry, all this is a mouthful. And then we will hear from colleagues in Dakar about their sustainable building and positive energy district strategies and the gaps and opportunities in the city. Then we will jump back to Europe in Malmo, when we will hear Trevor Graham, who is the director of Urban Island and is working with sustainable communities, and also before who was a former head of the Sustainable Development Unit in the city of Malmo. And then we will open the discussion as usual to everyone. You're welcome already before during the session to raise the hand, of course, or to write the question in the chat. If you don't feel comfortable to speak, I will be your voice if you like. You know, in the agenda, we always put some questions for you to already start brainstorming, to kickstart your thinking about this. So you're very welcome to share your experience, your doubts, your challenges, anything you want. Without further ado, I would pass the floor to Christoph and welcome you to this session.
Thank you. Thank you, Miriam. Warm welcome also from my side. Some of you already know me from previous sessions. Happy to meet you again. And we're diving into a probably one of the most important, if not the most important topic for cities, and that is about financing. Let me just give you a quick intro on the webinar series, on the series of this knowledge exchange program, and a bit of a deep dive, some slides on funding opportunities in the context of the DUT partnership and mission innovation. Someone's drawing in my slides. That's nice.
It's a good interactive.
That's interactive, yeah.
I don't know. Actually, yeah, you can also see that I can annotate. Let me see if I can erase that.
No, fine. The DUT partnership, I've talked about it before as a partner in the Urban Transitions Mission. Is a public-public European partnership for driving urban transition processes, providing evidence and tools for cities to perform transformation processes. It's an R&I program, a research program, currently co-funded by more than 60 partners with an indicative budget of 450 million euros until 2028. We work basically in 3 transition pathways: circular urban economies, 15-minute city, and positive energy districts. So on circularity, the mobility transition, and the energy transition. And this series is about the positive energy districts development. If you want to know more, get deep dive into the approaches and strategies and reasoning we apply in the partnership, please have a look at our roadmap. It is currently being updated, and by the end of the year, there will be an updated one. But as for now, this is still valid. Just a quick intro on what we are talking about. Some of you have heard that. Positive energy districts, what is that? Maybe the shortest way to describe that is the definition I put here in that slide. Positive energy districts are energy efficient and energy flexible urban areas that produce local renewable energy, achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions, and play an active role in the energy system for achieving overall climate neutrality. The whole program we are working in is focusing on delivering solutions or innovations in the context of how do we kind of these principles of decentralizing the energy system in order to improve resilience, independence on one hand side, but also to prevent energy poverty, to improve energy affordability. How can we apply and integrate these strategies into the urban context? So it's very much about technologies. It's very much about innovative technological solutions, but it is equally so about processes, governance structures, questions of impact creation in terms of environmental impact, social impact, economic impact. So kind of finding solutions, finding the processes of how we integrate the PED strategies, basically by optimizing the energy efficiency function, energy production function, and energy flexibility. How do we integrate it in the real world urban context? And logically, this will be different in each and every context within Europe, outside Europe. Every city has its own different preconditions, and what we want to do is to provide a toolbox, tools for facilitating the implementation of these transformation processes. So far, we have been talking about, we had an introductory session on why positive energy districts. Session 2 was on technologies, and session 3 on PEDs and policy regulations and social sustainability. And today, again, we're focusing on the question of financing. So what are the key strategies for smart and sustainable financing of PEDs, and how can local and regional energy markets be mobilized? Last session will be in a week already, and that is on circularity and material. To kind of start the discussion or kind of the input on financing, I can focus here and we'll provide a few slides for you that are hopefully as tangible as possible on the kind of the core instrument that we are using in the DOT partnership and in the mission innovation, and that's delivering annual calls. We've had 2 mission DOT and mission innovation calls in 2022 and 2023 where the projects are already working. Call 24 is currently in the evaluation stage, and the next funding opportunity, will be the call 2025, which will open usually on the 1st of September if it's not a Sunday. And then there will be calls until 2028. So annual opportunities for stakeholders to apply for projects in our calls. So far, 37 PED projects have been funded via JP Urban Europe and DOT, with more than 70 case studies, pilots, demonstrators in Europe. And if you want to dig a bit deeper, it's a developing thing. We're collecting all the cases and the data we receive in a database that has been built together with the Cost Action in Europe. So please have a look at this. You will find more information on the individual cases. If you are interested to apply for a DOT call, what can be applied for? It's basically our calls are focusing on a holistic, inclusive, interdisciplinary, impactful, transnational urban research and innovation projects with a focus on specific places in the urban context, with a strong focus on the stakeholders, as I mentioned before, on the processes that are needed, the people that are needed to engage in transformation processes. And one of the benefits is this transnational setting of the calls, where you can learn hands-on from other cities, from other contexts, and with that drive innovative solutions. Maybe even more important for you, who can apply? It's of course research organizations, it's companies, we're putting a focus on the cultural and creative sectors to be engaged in the calls, and any representatives from civil society, consumers, NGOs, you name it, and very much so urban government authorities. It is mandatory in our calls that there is at least one representative from a city to make sure that the projects really address the needs and challenges of the cities involved. How can you apply? Keep it very short, otherwise I advise you to use either my email address or the email address here in the slide. Basically, in the global context, but also in the European context, the basic precondition is that you have a funding agency, some kind of funding body in your country that is willing or is joining the DOT consortium and provides budget for the call. That can be on an annual basis, and I will show you an example. Canada, for example, participated in the call 2023. In the call 24, it was, for example, Brazil and other countries. So that changes every year. But this is if you want to be eligible for receiving funding as a city, you need to have a funding body on national level that participates in the DOT partnership. So if you're interested, get in contact with national agencies, with ministries, and please come back to us to get support in these processes. And as a next step, we have a matchmaking platform where you can develop, suggest, and find partners for project ideas. Just to have that said, it is possible also to join a project consortium, namely as a cooperation partner, but that would be without receiving funding, but can also be an opportunity. This is just for your info, the matchmaking platform. It's still for the call 24. The new one will be set up shortly. But if you're interested, please have a look at that. How our project, how the project partners in our projects communicate and find partners for their projects. Yes, there is a process of developing the call topics. Just to give you an example from the recent call 24 on the positive energy district topics, local PEDs in a multi-level perspective, system integration, and integrating PEDs in urban strategies, and topic 3 was on data management and decision support systems. Something along these lines are typical topics that we launch. And with that, I'm already at the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. I mean, I know it was just an entry point for you. Please come back to me if you have further questions regarding the funding, and otherwise I'll give it back to Miriam.
Thank you, Christoph. Of course, as usual, you can come back also. I mean, in case you're shy to go straight to Christoph, you can also go through the UTM team, and we can support before with any question that you have, and then pass to Christoph in case we are not able to answer. And we have also the Financing Fundings Help Desk with our colleague Nicola, who can also support you, understand what is your best, if you're eligible, if you're not eligible, then what else you can do to fund your project. Said that, I will pass the floor to Andreas Jäger. Introduce yourself already, but please, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, all good.
Fantastic.
Let you know if there's any issue with the connection.
Okay, Fantastic. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a real pleasure to be speaking with you today. I will give you a bit of an overview of activities in the Caribbean region and a little in LAC in general. Just very quickly, I'm working for the Global Green Growth Institute. If my slide wishes to move, yes, there we go. We are an intergovernmental organization that is driven to enable low carbon and resilient development worldwide. We work with 50 member states, and we have mobilized approximately 10 billion US dollars in green investments through our work up to this point. We were established in 2012, and our president is Ban Ki-moon. So we have a very high-level leadership. And yeah, I will dive straight into the Caribbean context, which is where I am active. I'm managing or supporting the management of a portfolio of projects in the region. We have a partner country, the Dominican Republic, where we focus a lot on climate finance. In Guyana, we work a lot on forestry, but potentially also expanding into sustainable urban development as the country is experiencing massive growth. And last but not least, this is quite unique. We usually have member states that join us, and we then deploy our experts within the ministries. In the case of the Eastern Caribbean, the Organization of the Eastern Caribbean States is a member of GGGI. So that is where my office is, and we thereby have connections to a host of Eastern Caribbean islands. Right, so I will give you a quick overview of 3 case studies. They all touch upon positive energy districts, so they're kind of parts of the recipe. They're not holistic positive energy districts, but will give me an opportunity to share some reflections with you. So to get started, we go to St. Lucia, which is where I am based, and here we are realizing resilient green affordable housing projects. I will not touch upon all the content in this slide, but we clearly in the Eastern Caribbean face a lot of resilience challenges in terms of climate change, hurricanes, sea level rise, etc. We also have a severe housing deficit on the islands. We have limited land. A lot of the Eastern Caribbean islands are mountainous, so we have quite little flat land to build on. And of course, being a tourist destination, a lot of the prime spots are taken by expats or hotel developments. So in St. Lucia alone, we face a housing deficit of over 10,000. And just to give you a context, the population is under 200,000. So it is a massive problem. Affordability is a problem, and therefore we developed this project together with the government of St. Lucia, supported by the French Development Agency, as well as the Green Climate Fund. And the aim here is to build in the full project 3,000 housing units, leverage 1.4 billion US dollars in investments to make this possible, create 4,000 green jobs, and do this to benefit over 10,000 people. Moving to phase 1 of the project, this is where we are developing 450 housing units. These are now being planned. You can see on the top right-hand side the phasing of our project. We finalized the conceptualization. We are now in the midst of the community design and master planning phase, and then we will move on to the financial structuring of this. So the master planning will already touch upon the financing angle. Of course, we are engaging the whole construction value chain, let's say, as well as the policymakers, the business sector, the finance sector. So it's a very intense process. We are costing the entire project at 75 million USD right now. And yeah, this is where we stand. We are also now in the process, with the support of the French Development Agency and the Irish government, we are scaling this approach up to the island of Grenada and one more island in the Eastern Caribbean. Just some quick observations in relation to this case. Trust and partnership building requires a massive amount of time and effort. So this is really not to be understated, especially when you are trying to get the buy-in from the private sector, also from private finance. Capacity building and awareness raising plays a major role in this, just to sensitize, but also to make sure that our stakeholders, all the actors, I mentioned the value chain, there is a skills deficit and a capacity deficit that needs to be addressed. The financial structuring, this is something where we have our finance experts embedded within the government. So they have really for years now been driving this project, and it cannot be done with a consultant coming in for a year and then leaving again. It needs quite a long time frame. So this is also bringing me to the last point, which is that long-term climate finance is needed for these kind of projects. We cannot just depend on a one-year project or a two-year project. Ideally, it should be longer, so that we can really systematically build those capacities and bring everyone on board. Now we move to Colombia and energy communities, which is a really exciting project that we are involved in. It's really scaling up at the moment. I will not again go into the details, but the Colombian government itself has shown real leadership in driving energy community development and has been providing public funding for their establishment. And they have had great success. And the focus there is on rural communities. And with the support of our funders, the German government, the UK government, amongst others, IKI initiative, we are looking more into the urban side of things and really complementing what the Colombian government is already doing. Here we are working on strengthening the institutional framework. We're trying to increase the installed renewable energy capacity by 105 megawatts for 20,000 new users and leveraging 120 million euros. So these are big numbers, and we are really working with the existing structure to scale things up. In this context, we are looking at ESCOs as a key enabler. So really looking at the private sector, and we've engaged the ESCOs and well, businesses that are interested in the ESCO model. This is kind of the precursor step, and there are, as you can see in the business model, various facets to this project. So it is quite a complex one in order to attract private finance into this space. So we can see in the diagram on the top right-hand side that we're also looking into guarantees and making sure that the debt that is provided by private finance is de-risked. We are also looking at power purchase agreements to make sure that we have stable revenue streams, as well as a revolving fund. So there's a lot of moving parts, and this diagram is just, I won't go into it, but just to show you that we really need to tailor every approach when we develop these kind of project preparation facilities to the local conditions, and that requires a lot of legwork, a lot of preparatory work. So some reflections on this. As I said, the context-specific challenges require tailored approaches. We need to minimize regulatory uncertainty. This is the feedback we've received from the private sector. We need to facilitate access to financing for entrepreneurs and first-time movers that are really going into the space. And last but not least, revolving funds, as I noted earlier, can play a pivotal role in ensuring that we can build the scaling of these approaches into the project design. Now moving to Costa Rica, where we are starting the preparatory steps for a district cooling system. Here, I will not go into much detail. It's quite a small project, but I think what is great is that it can be scaled, and we will be, if all goes well, achieve energy savings of 30 to 50%. We will use a lot less refrigerants than currently used with individual mini splits. So there are definite environmental benefits. We're also installing a capacity that is much higher than is needed. So on the base of that, we will then contact further building owners and come to financing arrangements to bring them into this grid and hopefully expand. So key messages here: get the ball rolling, maybe at a smaller scale, and then try to expand from there. Also, these lighthouse projects have real value in just raising the awareness, but also sowing the seeds for broader adoption and affecting policy change. Then last but not least, complexity and small scale and risk need to be looked at from a private finance angle. These are not very attractive propositions. The private sector has other ways, easier ways to make money than green investments. So we need to make it as much of a no-brainer as possible. And that brings me to my final slide, which is a collection of reflections. Some I've already mentioned. Regulatory conditions, also Christoph already alluded to that in his presentation. We need to make sure that things are possible, that ESCOs can be introduced in a country, that we can engage in power purchase agreements, that renewables integration is possible with grid interaction, so we don't need to power everything with batteries or install batteries and thereby raise the costs. Land use planning is non-existent in many small island developing states. So here we really face a challenge when it comes to integrated approaches, because the regulatory framework and the planning framework does not really emphasize this kind of cross-sectoral approach. So that is definitely something that is holding us back. Also, technical and human resource constraints. We have a huge deficit in staff in many ministries, and that is again one of our unique selling propositions at GGGI, that we embed experts into the field to support, but in practice, complexity is a challenge, and that just requires a lot of time to move forward. Moving to partnerships, yeah, time and effort it should not be underestimated. It takes a lot of time to build trust in small island developing states. We need to work on this a lot, and there are certain gatekeepers within government that need to be convinced that this is a priority and requires or should be given the attention that it needs. The motivation of stakeholders must also be understood, not naming specific countries here, but in smaller islands where you have a small population, business and policy making is very close together, sometimes even the same. So there might be vested interest in keeping the status quo. There may be profits in keeping things the way they are, and this needs to be understood. Otherwise, you run against closed doors. Also, it's important to identify champions that can really lead the way. All right, financing. I think the message I already brought across, we need financing that isn't just a year, but ideally longer term, so that we can really accompany the governments along the journey and make sure that policy updates and initiatives are supported in the long term. Public grants and subsidies still play a massive role. However, budgets are very limited in many small island developing states, for sure. But on the other hand, we need to make sure that things remain affordable and inclusive. So there is still a big role for public support that can be mixed in by a blended finance to come up with innovative approaches to fund projects. On the private finance side, just a few points. Project aggregation makes things a lot easier. We need to really de-risk our investments. So there you can establish guarantee funds. You can lead by example, create case studies that show that this is a possible, feasible project and reference that. It also produces data to show that this is a solid case. I would also like to mention that mainstreaming of ESG in the private banking sector is not very advanced. So one needs to build capacities in that regard to channel a lot of this private finance that is floating around away from classical investments to green investments. And this is also where we need to be cognizant of the fact that a bank can very easily make 8% return on investment without lifting a finger. But when it comes to green investments, there's additional reporting. The projects are more complex, and there is more need to make this as attractive as a proposition as possible. And last but not least, capacity and awareness raising. This is what we do with banks via umbrella organizations, but also with the construction industry value chain. Right, and that is all from my side. I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Andreas. It was really interesting and a lot of food for thought. And last but not least, the mention of blended finance, which is our cities know already, but this is the key topic for the year for the UTM. We will focus on that over the year, and also will be the focus of the UTM summit that we organize every year. So we keep you posted for sure. And Nicola is always there to help you navigate through blended finance approaches and opportunities that you have. I will then give the floor to the colleagues in Dakar, Professor Menda Amgalan, Coordinator and Director of the EU-DIRE Friendship Project, and Kamlesh Kumar Patak, Advisor and Member of the Project Steering Committee in Dakar and Old Province Municipality. The floor is yours. Kamlesh, I don't know if you start or... Yeah, you start. Okay. And if you need, I can share the screen. Maybe you can...
you can just share the screen.
I can share, okay. Just a second. You should see that.
Thank you very much to the colleagues of UTM for inviting us to present about the experience of Darkhan on the positive energy districts. I would say that this topic is still very new for us, but this is a great opportunity that you have invited us. We are really very thankful to UTM and Driving Urban Transition Partnership for this knowledge exchange program. We hope that after this session, we would be able to learn and try to adopt the various tools and knowledge and skill sets which is required to implement the PED program. In Darkhan, actually, as you know, that we are representing the Friendship Project, which is co-funded by European Union in a city which is known as Darkhan, and it is implemented by Darkhan Old Province Municipality. And the project is actually is a 3-year project, and we are in the last year of the project implementation. And as part of this project, we are implementing a number of measures which include the various pilot projects. We have 6 pilot projects which we are also funding with the we are supporting with the grant funding as a third-party support, and also we are funding to number of startups as part of this program. So Darkhan, at this point of time, Mongolia is going through the regional development plan, and we consider this is also the right time for us to implement the measures like PED. So I also have my colleague Mindy, who is going to explain about some of the projects which we are implementing in Darkhan.
Please let me know if I should go on with the slides, right? Say
Please.
to me next. Okay.
Hello to everyone. Sorry, my voice is. Please, Mariam.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, as Kamlesh explained about our friendship project, and I will now give a brief introduction about our Darkhan city. Darkhan city is the second largest city of Mongolia, and it has, of course, the population is very small comparing to our capital city of Ulaanbaatar. It is over 120,000 populations. And it is very young city, which is established in 1961 with the help of some European countries such as Czech, Slovakia, and Poland and Hungary. So Mongolians called the Darkhan city as a city of friendship. Because it is built by the help of the European cities. And comparing to capital city and other center of the provinces, the Darkhan city is quite modern, that household the built area is almost consists of almost 60% of total population live in built area, and 40% is in Gir district. The Gir district, the households is the main issue. That is the most of cities in Mongolia face facing difficulties such as not connected to central heating system, and also there is not connected to the sewage central sewage system, and it is the area that is built by household their own households, and that is the traditional nomadic household area. Okay, so Mongolia consists of 21 provinces, and Darkhan Old Province is one of these 21 provinces. Darkhan city is the center of this province, which is located to the northern part of Mongolia, and 220 kilometers from the capital city. Please, next slide. So from this slide, that is the 6-pillar policy pillar of which is the local government is implementing areas, and one is that the Darkhan city is located in the central cropping zone of Mongolia. So the main industry is of the agricultural industry, and also mining and construction industries is very well developed in our city. The one of these 6 pillar of the policy is urban development policy. because only Darkhan city has a policy that not expanding Gir district since 2013. So according to Mongolian law on the land, every citizen can own the land 1.07 hectare free. So the most of people want to live in Gir area, but in the previous slide, I mentioned a little bit about the condition of the Gir district. But so in capital city of Mongolia, almost the half of the total population of the country, they live in the capital city. And there is the area of the Gir district is the much expanded, and it is the very urgent problem. And you know that Ulaanbaatar is the coldest capital of in world, and also we have very serious problem with the air pollution. So Darkhan city has a policy of the redevelopment policy of the Gir district, and the main strategy of the Gir district, Gir area is to support, to build affordable, resilient, affordable green house in Gir district. So from this slide, you can see that the current situation that we facing problems in Gir area, mostly the pit latrine disease and heat loss and lack of infrastructure and coal consumption and air pollution. And mostly in Gir district, the households built their own the houses on their own without no standard. Because of that, the most of the houses has a lot of heat loss and energy loss. So from the state budget and state and local budget, Darkhan city implemented some engineering system in the Gir districts. But of course, it's still most of the households can't connect with that engineering system because of their financial capacity. That's why Friendship Project implemented one pilot project on the Gir area that to support the households to
with the utilities. To connect
Kamlesh,
the houses
please help
with
me.
to connect the houses with the utilities, the basic utilities, which
Yeah,
is
basic
sewage system, heating system.
And from this, the output of the implementation of the Friendship Project in Gir district, the 1,008 households have already get the cadastral engineering drawings. And the most important thing is that they measured the heat loss of their houses, and they made the agreement with the municipality and the redevelopment agency to cooperate on upgrading their houses heat loss. So it is I explained that I wanted to tell that the output of the Friendship Project, the community at the GIR district has a very good understanding and participation how to decrease the heat loss of their houses, and also their responsibility to upgrade their living condition. From this slide, you can see the
project which is funded by Fancy project.
Yes, the participation of the households.
Yeah, go next.
And here also, Tarhal City is trying to develop the climate action plan. That is the first province trying to develop climate action plan, and in that climate action plan, they set up many policies related to energy saving and reducing the carbon emission in
It has many components
in the
of
city.
mitigation.
Yeah. And from these slides also you can see some projects which the 6-pillar policy of the government.
Thank you. Should I go on? I'm mindful of time.
Yes,
I
yes.
think we have another minute maybe, and then we should give the floor to the next.
Yeah.
Shall I go on with the slides?
Yeah.
Kamlesh, please add some more
I think
explanation.
we have also many projects which is with the participation of the private sector. So where we have a company called as Basalt, they have very innovative heating insulation material. So the government is also engaging with the private sector to implement those projects. Just to mention also here that Mongolia is really funded by a Green Climate Fund. They have many such projects. Almost 7 to 8 projects are already funded by GCF in Mongolia, which is very strong components of mitigation, adaptation, and also resilience. These are also available for housing sector. There is a massive program which is ongoing, present, and Darkhanul province municipality is the beneficiary of that. That is on sustainable and affordable housing, which is implementing many of the measures of PED. So, I mean, these are actually ongoing program. World Bank has also done a study to implement a program on like energy efficiency that is also ongoing. So maybe with we will continually share such experiences. We are very keen to learn what DOT is also doing and how Mongolia can participate. And I would just like to mention that Mongolia is like going through this regional development program. And here actually the concept of PED is very much useful because they are having the policy of decentralization and they are really having the regional energy framework based on the geographical characteristics and the situation. Also, Mongolia as a country has already they have climate sustainable finance taxonomy, which is one of the very good outcome from the intervention of the central bank in Mongolia. Mongolia has SDG investor roadmap. They also have a integrated national financing framework. So there are a lot of like instruments which they are actually utilizing, which is basically the blended financing instruments, which they are already utilizing in terms of mitigation component and adaptation components, and also in the co-benefits. We would like to share more and more, in these exchanges.
Thank you, Kamlesh. You can definitely, I invite you definitely to go to our Urban Transition Mission Center, which is this online platform that we presented also more in deep dive last week. And for sure, go to the finance group and engage there. You can share your your experience, and this will be really helpful for everyone to see how to collaborate with the national
Definitely.
government. Or thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much. Yeah.
Then I will give the floor to the next speaker from Malmo, Trevor Graham. I see you're very ready.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks
Floor
for
is
that.
yours.
And been interesting seeing other examples from around the world.
Yeah.
So my name's Trevor Graham. I'm an independent consultant working with sustainable cities and islands around the world, but I have a background working in Malmo and still do work in Malmo. So I'll take you through a bit of a kind of a historic perspective, if you like, of how we get to where we are today, and describe a little bit of some of the things that are happening today in the city. So the start of things has been around political vision and leadership, a need to drive socio and ecological innovation to create a more sustainable city. There's been a strong role initially for public investment and innovation. Over time, that's shifted more into private investment and increased social innovation. And we're seeing more and more now business leadership coming through as the kind of mainstreaming into the market, and being able to really drive things forward on a commercial basis. And through all of this has been a joined up approach. So a very close cooperation between city, public companies, private investors and developers, local communities and academia. So the role of academia has been really important to provide the kind of verification of the things that are working and things that aren't working along the way. So the story of Malmo in recent times goes from the 1960s and 1970s, when the industry was booming, to the time when industry collapsed and the shipyards then became the focus for the first level of transformation, which was then the first phase of urban development in the Western Harbour, which became a kind of a benchmark, I suppose, for modern urban sustainable development. So this was a neighborhood with 100% renewable energy, designed for to be energy efficient housing, although that housing wouldn't today meet building standards. It's designed to allow cars in, but it's designed on a very human scale, so based around walking, cycling and public transport, and a lot of urban green and biodiversity measures. And while that was taking place, this is going back 25 years, we were also working on the redevelopment of an existing neighborhood with major problems around flooding, but also socioeconomic challenges. And this is where a lot of the old shipyard workers and industry workers who'd lost their jobs were living. So working with the community, the guy in the last picture was designed part of the stormwater system, which solved the flooding problem, and taking that into managed areas. But also working with the building on the left here has had a 30% energy reduction through a new secondary insulation on the outside of the building, and we were also working with solar energy in the neighbourhood. And it created a complete shift from being an area with significant socioeconomic problems to being an area still with its socioeconomic challenges, but not on the watch list anymore of areas with major difficulties. And it's become a reference point for sustainable urban regeneration of existing houses, both in Europe and wider. Whilst all that was going on a very sort of district scale, we were also building out on a larger scale, or enabling larger investment. So this is a private investment which is going on out at sea, creating what was at the time Sweden's largest offshore wind park, and also experimenting with medium scale urban solar. So using rooftops and the like to start feeding more solar energy into the grid locally, and doing other measures around sustainable transport and issues like that. So we've been through a process of innovation, taking a step up, and then mainstreaming, finding where can the market actually operate on a new level. And then from there, we can innovate again, we go up to another level, and we can mainstream again. So this has been an ongoing process over the last 25 years, learning the lessons. And quite often those steps in the innovation are usually a little bit higher than the mainstreaming. So you're stepping up a little bit, and then you're dropping down a little bit in the mainstreaming, and then you're stepping up again, to be able to get a real sort of more significant shift in what is achievable, and where can the market really take over. And in that, there's been sort of technical measures, social measures, organization, regulatory, and looking at, in the early stages, lots of investment from the city and lots of grant finance from the European Union, from national government. But over time, it's becoming more a matter of leveraging private investment and creating where there is still a need for innovation. The innovation is now more around how do we create those business models and the financial incentives for businesses to be investing. So becoming less dependent on grant aid. And again, throughout the whole thing, very much a partnership approach. So the sort of public sector working with the private sector, and I'll talk a little bit more about private sector working with each other. So this is one example of a partnership approach where we had the housing on the right here, the multi family housing, which was in very poor condition and needed significant investment. And there was a new developer that came in and bought up that property. They wanted to build new housing on the to the left there, the white buildings that was built on former car parking site, which was owned by the city. So we did a deal with them in which they got access to that land for nothing, because it was for an initial 10-year period. So they could build on the car park, remove that because it was a fairly insecure, unsafe kind of area, and wasn't being particularly well used by cars, and there were unused underground car parking spaces. So we got rid of car parking spaces, which was great for the city because that was part of what we wanted to achieve. They built new apartments with affordable rents and high energy standards. They invested in 40% energy reduction in the existing housing stock and maintained low rents. There was a very low increase of rents across the board. And this has been the first investment in this neighborhood since the 1970s when it was built. So it's been a real driver of change here. And as part of that deal as well, they created 16 new long-term jobs in the neighborhood, and they were also creating space for new businesses. So it was an all-round win-win in a kind of declining part of the city, and has been the first step of a step up. And it was facilitated by the partnership approach, by the city waiving the land lease for the first 10 years. So that was like an indirect financial contribution. And then the partnership allowed more preferential loans for the developer on the market. They've gone on to create the Scandinavia's first sustainable bond, so with both social and environmental targets as a result. And Malmö's worked on the development of green bonds, and we're also now operating with social bonds as well. And these are just essentially tools in which we can borrow on the market, but with slightly preferential rates, because we're able to bundle a whole portfolio of investment projects with social and environmental value built into them. So one of the latest developments that I mentioned throughout all of this has been a very strong process of collaboration. And a lot of the new development areas, we've had what we've called the developer dialogue process, where we bring together all the developers who are going to be working in a neighborhood. This is maybe like 10 or 15 companies. And we together with them set shared standards. This is what we want to achieve. This is where we want to go. And sustainability, environmental issues and social issues, affordability issues are always part of that in one way or another. That has led to now an initiative which is a roadmap for fossil-free construction, in which we have 200 more than 200 now businesses within the city who've committed that all of their development, all of their management and all of their renovation will be climate neutral by 2030. And this is like a massive challenge. Chances are, I don't think they're going to be there all the way, but they're probably going to be 80% of the way there. And this is like a huge step change in sustainable construction in Sweden, which is being driven at a local level. So this is the local initiative. So we've got buildings that have been built with lots of recycled materials. So circularity is one way of significantly decreasing the climate footprint. Sorry, I'm a bit too fast there. One of and looking at things like construction with timber, decreasing the amount of concrete, only using concrete where it's absolutely essential. So lots of different elements like that, but looking all the way through from the early stages of design right the way through to the supply chain, and how do you get things working. And the really interesting bit in this is that we've struggled to have that commercialization of sustainable renovation of existing buildings. The commercialization of new build is kind of kicking in. That's been working quite well over the last 20 years. But now with this focus on climate neutral renovation and maintenance and management as well, that's really going to start kicking in for the existing housing stock. So we're looking forward to seeing how that is going to really change the position on the built environment overall. So that's kind of like where things are at the moment, and hopefully that then enables also a more joined up approach around sort of getting communities involved in renovation and redevelopment of existing neighborhoods. And we have, you know, like most cities, areas with fairly significant socioeconomic challenges. So enabling processes in which we can deliver social change while we're also delivering the environmental changes we need is going to be really key to adding additional value in that development process. So that was a quick fly through of where we are at the moment, and look forward to more discussions later.
Thank you, Trevor. I see that the co-benefit go also beyond and go touch upon art pieces in the building.
Absolutely.
Very nice. Thank you. So I will open the floor to, first of all, questions to the speakers, but also if you want going through what broad discussion, if you want to share about your strategies and approaches that you use in the city to finance the building sector, positive energy district approaches, and also what are the big challenges that you face when starting such a project or wanted to plan such a project. And also if you have examples of innovative financial solutions or business models that you have applied also beyond the business sector. I realize that the agenda that I shared earlier has the wrong questions, so I will share with you in the chat here the new ones, and then when we circulate the material and the recording, I will share the right one with the non-misleading questions. Any? Yangia, I see your hand.
Yes. I cannot find.
Yeah, no problem. Any hand is working.
Okay. I have two questions. One for maybe not question, clarification from the first presenter, and a question to our Mongolian colleagues. As I understand, Azerbaijan is not eligible country for tools under PED financing. Is it right?
You mean the DOT partnership and mission innovation?
Yeah.
Currently not for this call, but again,
Okay.
this is kind of to be decided on an annual basis. So for each and every call,
Okay.
it is possible and highly encouraged. We constantly trying to mobilize other countries. So that's still an open possibility for Azerbaijan or any other country.
Yes. Let hope.
Yeah, I mean, if you are, as I said, the difficulty is you need a national partner for this. So as a city, you're from a city, I guess. As a,
No. I am country expert in Count of Myers East. We have here from our country, city of Shiki, deputy mayor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if you're interested, maybe the best way is really to drop me an email and see how if you're interested for Azerbaijan, and how we can take that step by step.
Yeah. Sure.
Maybe Christoph, this is also a good opportunity to answer. I saw a question from Andreas Piazza about the national agency question. So maybe you can take the opportunity to
also.
clarify on that.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's a good question. So when your country is not there, how can a city help, let's say, bringing that opportunity in? If it's possible to, let's say, if some city or the ComEast colleagues have a good relationship with the national government, can they kind of bring them in for the next call? This is maybe.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, sorry.
Please note that we are on a very early stage on this PED strategy, PED definition, because only last year we were starting the first stage as energy audit of buildings. 3 buildings in our one of our signatory cities was selected. The energy audit provided. This year provided energy audit in Shiki city, in public buildings, in kindergarten and schools. And we are only on very beginning steps. It's a district PET this the positive energy districts is far away to us, but we have to understand. It's very interesting concept.
Yes, and then I would even say that it is not necessarily needed that you as a country or a city are on a very mature level of development here. This is in general a relatively new concept, and it imposes quite some challenges to many cities. Also, I don't know, the typical frontrunner cities. So these transnational consortia that we are funding, I would see that also as an opportunity, for example, for Azerbaijan universities or research organizations, but also, of course, cities, to build capacities in this field. So it's really also about these transnational projects are really also on based on mutual learning processes. So I wouldn't see that as a barrier to participate in that. The question is, usually the challenges are more on the organizational administrative side to find that. And the question from Andres was, what kind of agencies do we typically address here? It's depending on the situation in your countries. It's usually some kind of funding agency. Can be ministries. Usually it's funding programs by ministries implemented by funding agencies, and so kind of they need to have the capacity to provide a certain budget for a specific call in order for any institution, be it a research institution or a city, to receive funding from the projects. So that's the main, and it can also be, I don't know, some countries have, I wrote it in the chat, some countries have dedicated programs to support cities. That can also be these kind of program owners to be part of the DOT consortium. But kind of we need to, the DOT is a public-public partnership based on the collaboration between countries, pooling funding resources to develop our calls. So that's the basic idea of the partnership. That's why we need these national partners and funders to provide funding to cities and other stakeholders.
Yes, thank you very much, Christoph. Unfortunately, on this meeting, we missed our colleagues from University of Architecture and Construction. They participated in the previous meeting, and they are very interesting because I think university is the right place to start this new tool, new strategy about PED.
Definitely a good place to start. Yes.
We will share contacts with this lady from University of Architecture and Construction, Miss Samira Akbarova. She participated at the previous meeting, and she is very interesting on this subject. Yes. Thank you very much, Christoph.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you had another question to the
Yes, I have a question to Mongolia, our Mongolian colleagues. As I understand, this is this word "gir" is the traditional drilling of in Mongolia. Yes.
Right, sir. Right,
yes.
you are
Okay.
correct. It is like a
I understand from
system.
during the presentation. And my question, what is the main fuel currently used in this kind of settlement? If there's some connection to power network, or this is decentralized power supply?
Many are connected with the power network through utilities, but at the same time, many of them don't have access to the basic utilities like the heating system, like power supply, electricity. So they are at different stages of like access to basic services. And there are many projects which are ongoing. Some projects are ongoing with the UNDP and all, where they are getting renewable energy in order to access the electricity. And in many projects, the traditional heating system in the gates, they are replaced by more advanced heating system or insulation system. So actually there is a transition which is taking place in Mongolia, even in the case of gate.
But currently what they used for heating in winter time and cooling in summertime, because I understand that winter is very cold and summer is very cold.
Yeah. So Mongolia is going through a major, like I would say, climate change. They have summer plus 40, winter minus 40. So they have kind of 100-degree, range. And they are coal dependent economy, as you know very well. So they are still using coal, but there are many examples where they are using the coal after beneficiation, and they are also having advanced, improved space heating system. So again, there are a lot of technology, and also from the fuel side also they are having the diverge, fuel bases which they are developing. But as you know that Mongolia is very dry. They do not have a very rich, forest resources or agriculture resources. So definitely the supply chain issue is also a challenge.
Okay, and as I understand, your traditional dwelling is very energy effective, yes? Because
they are.
Energy effective in summertime and in wintertime.
Yes, sir.
No need additional insulation.
Not exactly.
Okay.
They are using.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to share or have questions? Don't be shy. Otherwise, I throw the dice and I ask somebody to intervene.
Maybe some of you have personal experience how to use renewable energy in district heating.
And how to finance that.
No, how to finance, how to use.
No, today,
Yeah.
because the focus of today is finance, and I
Okay,
wanna.
sorry.
No, sorry. Any experience is good, but the finance ones are better. I see Roberta, calling names. Roberta or Xenia, Sayara, anyone has some.
Like it, Miriam, like it would be very interesting for like even for the speakers and participants to get to know what could be like the, basically financing model,
Yes,
or how do we
exactly.
structure, the financing model for a particular PED program. So this kind of things would be very important if we have some time to
Yeah,
get to.
indeed. Also special challenges, because maybe somebody tried to approach a building sector financing and then has bumped into a mini or bigger wall. So it's also interesting to see what is the wall.
May I say something?
Yes, of course.
Maybe it's a mix of an observation and question or stimulation. From the presentation from Trevor, I find it interesting because I guess at least for European cities, but probably globally, there is I don't know, a bit of a learning process from financing projects mainly from public sources. This is what I think you call it city financing in your slides, towards a more diverse set of business models, increasingly including the private sector and companies. And I guess this is also a bit of a how to say a cultural learning process in terms of trust between public and private sectors, depending on also probably on the political system. And maybe it's a question to Trevor. How do you see that in kind of in this learning perspective? How did is it about the right contracts between public and private sectors? I don't know. We've had, for example, this I don't know what's the English term in German.
Sorry,
the urbanistic contracts to also make sure that.
I seem to have problems with my internet.
Okay.
I see that
At the moment, so I'm missing some of that, but
yeah. Maybe try to switch off the camera, Trevor, maybe if it's working.
let me just move and see if I can.
Yeah, sure.
Better connection, and then you can repeat the question, Christoph.
Yeah. And the other thing is maybe referring to what Andreas was presenting, this focus on ESCOs and oh, now it's completely gone.
I think it's moving physically and non-physically.
Because especially for the energy transition, it's obviously an entry point that kind of needs to be further explored. And I wonder, and this is basically a question to all of the audience, how much kind of ESCOs is an understood concept or an understood partners that you work with, and how you see that.
Maybe we can start from Andreas, if you mind, about the ESCO piece.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I just can't find the hand raise button for some reason, so
no problem.
that's why I'll just jump in here.
Exactly, no problem.
So on the ESCOs, we're at different development stages, and every country has different energy regulations that do or do not allow feed-in tariffs, etc., and that to underpin the emergence of ESCOs. And I would also say they need speaking about risk again, and this is any private sector decision making. If there is risk, then you're not going to be very keen to engage, and sometimes we have issues where public policy or legislation does not show a clear pathway towards a direction, and you need to be forward-looking with your investments. And if there is no certainty that policy, that there will be regulatory tightening or more ambitious minimum standards, then the private sector will not want to engage necessarily. And then on the other hand, the side with actually the utilities being often privately owned, they can also block things because of vested interests, once again, that the current modus operandi is profitable. It's good to be a monopoly and not think about decentralization and give up power in the figurative sense. So yeah, I think there are challenges, but this is just a very general remark. I mean, it really, like, the nuance is at the national level, where this fine-tuning has to happen to allow for market entry of ESCOs.
Andreas, is it right the understanding that ESCOs are mostly useful to set a business model to refurbish existing buildings, or is it also okay for a new district? Or because my understanding, they use the saving to pay back their, right? So you need to have a bad use of energy before and then an improved situation right after.
Well, it can be calculated, of course, and but that is not very attractive for residential properties, I would argue, because residential energy demand and use is more difficult to model than commercial buildings, where 9 to 5, Monday till Friday. Schools, where kids come to school and you have a lot of solar power potential, and these kind of there are easier ones, public buildings, that is again where you have, it's a low-hanging fruit, but in a PED you have a mixed typology. So I think there comes a bit of the challenge.
I see Trevor is back. Seems to have moved. Let's check again. Christoph, maybe you want to repeat.
Yeah, maybe just in short. I was just kind of pondering on the question of the learning process, because Malmö obviously is a success example in driving transformation processes. This learning steps towards more cooperation with the private sector from and I guess that's true from many or most European cities, at least, that there is a mindset of, no, we're doing this, and then kind of developing towards a more diversified, let's say, business model structure. So can you say, or can you identify somehow what are there some kind of cornerstones or milestones for this gradual change in terms of financing?
Yeah, so I suppose, I mean, part of it is part of the challenge is around risk. So whenever you're asking the private sector to do something new, they get worried about it, and they think of all the things that can go wrong, and then that pushes up their prices significantly. So it's been a kind of a process of, how do you use some grant funding or some other financial incentives to help de-risk some new thinking. Then the developers can go in, they can try something out, they can learn from their mistakes. And one of the things that we've been very clear about in almost all of our major development projects is that we share our mistakes, we publish our mistakes, so that you learn from your own mistakes and you learn from each other's mistakes. And then you find a level that's, okay, well, now we're confident that we can do this, and you go on to another level. And then from there, you can think about, what's the next step? How do we step up again? And again, you've got the same problem. Okay, we're going a little bit outside of our comfort zone. how do we de-risk that in one way or another? So it's all around about, I suppose, just that kind of a partnership process of understanding, okay, this is the next step. How do we de-risk that next step? And then one thing that I didn't mention before was, and it's kind of a little bit outside of the city control, but there's one thing about raising the ceiling of this is what we can achieve, but at the same time, you can end up with a situation in which you've got people undercutting the more ambitious developers by being very low on the ground. So again, it's that discussion with the national government around, okay, we're raising the ceiling, we're showing what's achievable on the market. How do you raise the floor so that you're increasing improving the regulations to make sure that everybody's moving forward as well, not up to the top, but moving into a new market normal.
I like this concept very much of learning by mistake. I think mistakes are definitely undervalued, and
they're great. I make right? Loads of them.
No, but I mean, it seems that it's much easier to share where people are better, right? So, and nobody wants to share the failure, but I think it's particularly in the space where we need to innovate. You need to start admitting failure and fail forward, like we say. So fail badly in case, and then learn from that, and then go on. Otherwise, so you will hear from us. We have plans about that, how to engage our cities to fail forward together and be proud of their failures, so to say. And yeah.
Yeah, I used to have there was a senior manager in the city who used to say, if a week's gone by and I haven't made a mistake, then I'm not doing my job properly.
Oh, nice. I will make this as a mine.
I like that one.
Yeah. You saw I made already mine by putting the wrong questions in this agenda. I have a check for this. Roberta, I saw that you were unmuting yourself.
Can I say just a word, even if we are now at the end?
Yes.
On this last about failure, you know that there is a Japanese motto. They say at the basis of any success, there is a failure. So there are also origins that are quite clear. And I agree with if we are looking for innovation, for sure, without failing, you are not innovating. You're just repeating something that is existing. And in Albania, we have now the challenge of going with the positive energy district in Shkodra, is in the northwestern of Albania, because the municipality owns an area of about 170 hectares that was industrial area abandoned for many years. They tried many times to do things through national government funds, through other private investors, but nothing functioned. So now the mayor shared with us the challenge, and we already suggested to go also with the positive energy district. What I mean is that we are building a regeneration plan for the area, where what we are trying to do since the beginning is an integrated approach. So a different kind of funding leverages. Also, private one will be there for the regeneration of the area and for making it a positive from the energy point of view. So what we are doing is planning the area so that some of the buildings and spaces generate revenues for the private sector, so that they are interested on those, and with a percentage of the profit or from the private profit, and combining different leverages, we managed to have the entire area regenerated and positive from the energy point of view. So we are just starting creating it, but this is on average the approach we are adopting.
Very interesting, Roberta. Yeah. I invite you also to share more on the UTMC. That can be a very interesting approach to be copied or to learn from while you go on.
For sure. I add just that we are also a bit playing with this energy word because we want to make it a area positive from the external energy point of view, a inner energy point of view. So will be a recharging place also for people so that the new industrial and enterprises activities that will make the area vital will also adopt a regenerative approach to job work and sharing in terms of social activities.
Oh,
So
very nice.
of course it will be a pleasure to share with the community, UTM community. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. I saw that partnership and probably partnership and the risk investment were the two pieces that were mentioned the most, and that's definitely a learning. Not very surprising, maybe learning, but definitely a key point, and long term also long term. Last call for any burning question because we are beyond time, and I thank you also for the patience to be with us still. Anyone? No. Okay. Then I thank again all our colleagues and speakers who intervene, sharing their wonderful experience and wisdom. And I thank Christoph for the co-organization of the session. And then next time will be next Thursday for a session on circular economy and materials. That was a session that was supposed to be last week. No, sorry, two weeks ago. But then we moved that to next week. So this is the fifth, and next will be the fourth session. Then we welcome you to join also next one. And I wish you a wonderful day or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. See you next time. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.